Hi, this is Ben from Turn Sounds, and make sure to put the lid on your pens.
I think it's a flu or something.
Some kind of flu. It moves fast.
We know that this sickness can be lethal. Don't panic, we're going to figure this out. But we should keep you separated in the meantime.
Welcome to Just Keep Walking, a podcast focused on the Walking Dead TV show. This episode we'll be discussing Season 10, Episode 14, called Look at the Flowers. I'm your host, Ben, joined today by Isaac.
Hey, how we doing, people in their homes?
And Liam.
Yeah, that's me. How's everyone going? Hope everyone's safe.
Doing good. So yeah, this is a special, I'll call it quarantine edition of of the podcast. So we're not together in person today. So, bear with us if there's any technical difficulties or delays, sound things and all that. But yeah, we're still glad that we have the opportunity to catch up and talk about this and hopefully keep you guys entertained as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we are talking about this episode. We're going to sort of get into our overall thoughts, impressions on the episode, then do a bit more of an in-depth review, talk about some of the storylines individually, and then a few little segments at the end. So Liam, why don't you start us off? What did you think of the episode overall? Did you like it?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely liked it. It was a little bit drawn out with the Carol stuff, I thought, but overall, yeah, it was really good. A nice setup for what's to come, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Isaac, what do you think?
Well, if you'll excuse me, I just need to back away from the mic when I just do this for 1 second. My thoughts in general can be summed up with 2 words. Why, Carol?
That's like your thoughts on every episode.
Yeah, if Carol's in it, just why, Carol?
Okay.
We'll get into it as we go through the episode, but I'm not a fan. Hey, it's like, yeah, broken record.
All right, fair. Not a fan of Carol. All right. Yeah. Overall, for me, I didn't mind it too much at all. I quite, I really liked the episode. I enjoyed it. There were definitely parts of it that were filler or that didn't quite hit home for me, but overall had a great experience and I really liked the episode. So yeah, but like you said, we'll get into a bit more of that. So I guess, yeah, diving straight into it, we start off with the cold open of Carol and Negan when he's still in the cell and she's about to let him out. They sort of got that negotiation. They're working out a deal there. I quite liked how Negan really, he saw both sides of the situation. He brought up, what if I screw this up? This is going to cause a bit of a problem for every man, woman, and child in Alexandria. So, yeah. What did you guys think of that whole discussion there?
Well, I mean, I'll insert Star Wars wherever I can into whatever podcast, but whenever that comes up, I just think of it, not just the men, but the women and the children too.
100%.
But I thought absolutely it shows what I had hoped all along for Negan's character is that he does have a heart and he is starting to care about, he keeps on saying, I don't kill kids, you just never kill kids. And so I think particularly Judith has won his heart over and it's pleasant to see that they are in his thoughts when he's making decisions. So, yeah.
I agree. I was in the exact same boat. It was nice to see, like Isaac said, everything that we were hoping was coming from that. That's exactly how it was sort of playing out.
For sure, yeah. So from there we sort of go straight to the pikes where Carol's putting Alpha's head on one of the spikes, which is cool to see. Good to get that imagery and bit of payback there. I don't know. We're sort of really warming up to Negan now, so seeing Carol just not hold up her end of the deal straight away and walk away and kind of leave him. Yeah. What do you guys think of that?
Well, first of all, I don't know how shallow. Look, okay, so if my wife listens to this at all, I'll probably get a talking to. But as far as anatomy goes, I don't know where the brain sits in the skull and the head. So I don't know how you could even put a head on a pike without immediately skewering the brain. So I don't know how shallow that sits or anything, but that's a different conversation, I'm sure. But exactly that. So Carol goes back on what she said she was going to do. And this is not like if we'd seen that segment right at the start of this episode, if we'd seen that like 5 or 6 episodes ago and it was never a mystery who let Negan out, then we kind of would have gone, okay, well, things have changed, you know, in between then and now. But the fact that we had just seen that scene and then straight after that she goes back on her word, it just really reflects badly on her. Like, we've just seen her make that promise and how much it would have meant to Negan for her to honor that promise. Like, all he wants is just to be part of the community and to be out of that cell and to eat spaghetti again. and she won't even grant him that. Like, you know, oh, you're free, you can just walk around, but that's not what he wants to do. So
yeah, and he's already gotten free, so like that's not what he wants at all. So to see Carol just assume, oh, you'll be happy with this, right? That's not really what he wants, hey?
Yeah, I agree. And just to add on, like, he can't go back without something to show for it because, like he said, he'll be hung. She's more or less signed his death warrant by going back on her word there.
Yeah, so that was a bit frustrating to see that from Carol,
yeah.
but yeah, I guess we'll see where it goes. Hopefully she comes back to Alexandria by the back of the episode, so hopefully we'll get something now that she's back, but we'll see what happens. One small thing that I loved in that scene as well is as you transition into the opening title credits, the music, the way it was paced just worked really well. And this is something mostly in the editing. The way the dialogue was paced, I think the line from Carol was, and that takes a minute. She sort of, you know, there was music under the conversation that died down and Carol said, I've got to go and be on my own. And that takes a minute. And then there was like a sort of a 1-2 small gap. And then it went into the main theme. So I love when they pace it really well. There's just something about the pacing of the dialogue and the music and the sound effects that really flowed really well. And I love when they pay attention to that. That really stands out to me as something good. Following on with sort of the Negan storyline, we'll come back to Carol in a bit, but from there he goes back to the shed to find Lydia and sort of let her go, but finds out she's escaped and Daryl's there waiting.
I'm actually quite surprised that Daryl didn't just kill him right then and there, like that he even let him do any sort of explaining. So
yeah,
but yeah, you could see the panic on Negan's face, and it's funny watching it from our perspective because we know straight up that he's telling the truth. But it's like, yeah, I'm going to reach into my pocket and here's the mask and this is exactly what happened. And then we understand from Daryl's point of view that, of course, he's not going to believe a word of it. Like, this is Negan we're talking to. Classic Negan.
Classic Negan!
So it's kind of, yeah.
And the trick is as well that you don't know whether, or rather Negan doesn't know whether Daryl's aware of Carol letting him out or, you know, who's in on that plan. So you can see why he sort of at the start was maybe assuming that Daryl did know about it, but then went, oh, okay, so he doesn't know about the plan and then he's got to explain even more. So that kind of makes the whole situation quite a bit trickier that really no one aside from Carol knows about what Negan was supposed to be up to there. But yeah, it's, I don't know, it's always... Negan's had a lot of these situations recently where it just looks really bad. It's like, come on, guys, believe me. So I guess from there they go and walking through the woods and go to the pikes where the head's missing and stuff like that. Daryl rather, really seems to be trying to give him the benefit of the doubt to some extent, at least to the point of not killing him, which is good to see at least. But yeah, from there there's like... the Whisperers thankfully show up just at the right time to say, oh, hey, you killed Alpha and confirm the story. So that was definitely good timing there because I don't know what would have happened if they hadn't shown up. But yeah, what did you think of that whole scene, Liam?
My favorite part from that was like Negan's explanation, actually, how he turned around and said, you know, I actually did enjoy it. I'm glad that they didn't skate over that and they highlighted that... yeah, you know, I was locked up for 7 years. I had a bit of freedom. You know, I was someone that mattered again, and it felt good. I'm glad that was not brushed over. But that scene, that was awesome, and I liked the whole. As soon as he said kneel to Daryl, I'm like, I can see where this is going.
Yeah,
But it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, good to see him acknowledging the prison, especially because hearing
Yeah.
him say, "Oh, I enjoyed it," and you're just kind of going like, "Oh, it's a power trip sort of thing." But hearing him say, "You know what? I was locked up for like 7 years. I had nothing but like a window to look out of, and the crappy food that you gave me." It's so like, yeah, that makes it a lot more understandable. Not just that he's important to these people, but even just being out and free and meaning something to some community at least. So that actually made it a lot more understandable and humanized Negan a lot more. I felt, hey,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, they didn't go so low as to feed him dog food and bread, so that's something,
true.
He was treated a little better. But absolutely that. I mean, the footsteps right at the start of the episode where he's sitting in the cell and then he's like, well, damn, here it is. I'm about to probably get executed or something, and then gets given that extra shot, which then, sends him off into the wilderness. I think so many times, we have as well when Alpha was leading him out into the woods for that scene that we try our best to forget, where he's thinking as well that he's going to get executed again. And it's kind of like he's at that point where he's really going to try not anything just to survive, but anything to just try and belong again, which I think, is really highlighted by his dialogue there, what he was saying this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I thought that wasn't very smart from his end was when the Whisperers showed up and said, "Hey, look, you're the new Alpha." Just the fact that he dragged that out for so long, like, surely this is the point where you're really, his number one priority is earning the trust of Daryl and of Alexandria and sort of, trying to justify what he's doing and stuff like that. And this is the time where he really can shine, and yet he goes and drags it out of rage. It's like, surely as soon as you get the shotgun, just shoot the other Whisperers and do it straight away. So that annoyed me a little bit because I'd hoped that he would just go straight into it. But yeah.
Well, my thought was kind of like he made Daryl kneel just so that he was right out of the way of the shotgun blast and whatnot. And you can see that because it was a double barrel, he thought that he was going to get a second shot. And when he only got the one shot and he tried again, was like, oh, dang, this isn't going to fire a second time. Then, yeah, I thought the whole kneeling thing was to get low, get out of the way. I thought he was actually going to take it a step further and say, you know what, actually, no, get all the way down, flat on the ground. That's because you're dirt or you're scum or something. And then shoot everyone, So.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. Definitely, that checks out. And I mean, it is part of his character anyway to just, even in the worst situation where you really shouldn't be mucking around, for him to just like have a laugh and, take things a little bit too far. So it definitely fits within his character at least. So are you guys feeling like they could be bonding a little bit, particularly towards the end? It's not spoken, but when he says like, or Daryl goes to him, was that supposed to make me like you? No. Good. And, it's not in the words, but just the way they're talking, I don't know. I'm picking up that they might be growing a little bit more trust in it, somewhat getting a bit of a bond, particularly when Negan makes the joke about, oh, was it my winning personality? Does that get me any points? What do you guys think of that?
I was in the same boat, actually. I thought, I can see a little bit of a bonding thing, but my first thought was obviously Glenn and the guilt that Daryl felt because he was the one who punched him in the face, which then resulted in Glenn too soon.
Yeah.
So I thought, is it bonding or is it just mutual trust? Like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. You may be on our side for now, but I don't like you. But, maybe they are bonding. It did sort of appear that way a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think we could ever get to a point where Negan's an actual trusted part of the community where he can be just wandering around like everyone else and be at that point where the past is in the past and everyone's completely moved on from it? Or is there always going to have to be some sort of limit to how involved he can be?
I mean, it's a good question, and I can see that he will come as a regular community goer, I suppose you could call it. But yeah, I think from time to time there will always be that thing hanging over his head. Like, actually, no, this is what you used to do. So that part is still in there to a degree. We have to be cautious. But I think he will become a regular member,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
Definitely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Because really, from here, this is kind of the turning point. Either you're going to exile him and get rid of him, or just kill him, or they could put him back in the cell, but it really feels like they need to move on and do something else from here. You can't just keep him in the cell forever. So. Well, I guess we'll have to see where that goes. It's going to be interesting for sure. So moving to the Carol storyline, if you call it that, this was definitely probably the low part of the episode for me. As far as I actually didn't mind some of the dialogue. I was interested watching it, but when we got to the end and just nothing came out of it. It really just felt like filler to me, and I just got to the end and went, okay, what was the point of that? Because it seemed like they were actually potentially setting up something as far as, obviously this is showing that even after getting revenge on Alpha, that actually hasn't fulfilled her or brought her to a good place, but it didn't really give you anything new that would have been there if you hadn't had any of those scenes at all. So what do you guys think of the whole Carol situation?
I thought it was a well-constructed scene, which propelled the narrative and brought us to. Oh man! So you've got Alpha, or the ghost of Alpha, sort of looming around in Carol's head, and it's like we've seen all of this before, like through. I don't know if there were episodes where she was in her own head or something like that, or like past characters that had died that were in her head, and she was going off on those loopy adventures. And it's like, now you're back at it again. Like, I get that she's still stricken with grief, and like you say, who would have thought, revenge doesn't, fill that gap in you. Anyway, so, and then she goes in this shack and climbs up. I don't know what she was even trying to do. Like, she was trying to pull something down, and then the whole shack falls on her.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey,
what was going on there? And then, so she's covered in this pile of, let's call it rubble, even though it didn't even look very. To me, it didn't look like she was trapped very much, and it's just this overplayed cliche of, oh, the character is stuck. Along comes danger in the form of a walker, and so now she has to get out quickly or die. And it's just, we've seen this been played out a bunch of times in this very series, and I just feel like, I don't know, because you got Alpha who's there saying, it's time, you're gonna die, and stuff like that. And you're like, well, yes, sure, look at the flowers, here we go. And then, along comes the title of the episode. And I thought, is she just gonna relax and let herself get eaten alive because she's just so darn depressed? Because you've got Alpha there who's saying, you want something, say it, what do you want? And I don't think we got to find that out this episode. So we always thought that she just wanted to die, because that's what she said at one point, I just want to die. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we had got an answer to that question, even just any sort of, yes, this is what I want, then that would have made it a lot more worthwhile for me. But just the fact that we didn't even get a proper answer to that, that was what really left me disappointed. Just that you could have left the whole thing out and pretty much nothing would have changed as far as what we've learned from it about the character or the plot or anything. So that's unfortunate. But I did like a few of the lines. I liked that she referenced Ed from back in season 1, Carol's ex-husband.
Yeah.
Just tying in a few of those things. It's good to get a reminder of those once in a while, but it's hard just when none of it really seemed to actually have any consequences or move the story forward at all.
Well, it's kind of like you mentioned. Like, so at the start, she goes back on her word with Negan, goes off on her own. So like, okay, that was a pretty rubbish thing for you to do, but all right, off you go. Then she goes and gets herself into this predicament, doesn't learn anything, and then ends up back with the people she started with, which granted sort of like fulfills the message that Alpha was saying. Like, it doesn't matter how many times you go off on your own, you need people, but you keep on hurting people. And it's like, if that's the lesson she learned, then really she should have either died or not gone back at all. And I feel like the us seeing her back at Alexandria at the end of that, you know, and also not on good terms with Daryl still, it's like the whole thing, like you say, it could have not been in there at all and it wouldn't have changed anything. So it was just a bit annoying to watch for me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I guess the last thing out of that is the look at the flowers line. Did you feel that, like, I don't know. So for my take on it was it wasn't quite enough to justify calling the whole episode "Look at the Flowers." Any thoughts on that?
I'm with you. It didn't warrant that at all. It was. I agree. Everything Isaac said hit the nail on the head. It seemed completely pointless. There could have been one change that would have made me extremely happy with the whole thing, and that would have been if Connie came to her rescue.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
I was hoping that that's where it was leading to. It didn't. And I'm like, yep, that we could have done without all of that nonsense. It was pointless.
Sure.
Some of the dialogue was great, don't get me wrong, but just in general, it was definitely filler.
Yeah. So that's a shame, but at least I think we got enough in the rest of the episode for the other storylines that it sort of helped to pick it up a bit. So moving on to Beta now, there was a lot of some interesting stuff going on there. So, well, we start off with him at the Pikes and he grabs Alpha's head. You were talking about this, Isaac, a little while ago about how that would look, like picking up a bald head or how you'd go about it. Were you happy?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, he's got the one hand basketball hold down pretty well. So
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
But throughout the whole episode, I was just waiting for him either like holding the bag for like her to bite his finger through the bag, or like when he sticks it in to grab the head out again for it to just go, oh.
I am so glad I was not the only one thinking that. I'm like, he's going to put his hand in, like, ooh. Oh, but yep, I'm glad I'm not alone there.
Definitely.
Well, even thinking a scene back from that, so they're there looking at the Alpha's head on the pike, and one of the goons, unluckily for him, says, "Oh, you're the Alpha now." And Beta's like, "What?" Like, I don't know what triggered him so much about that. But then he holds the guy's face close to get eaten by, to get bitten by Alpha. And I'm there wondering this whole time, your hands are free. Just like slap her face out the way or something, or like knock it off the pike. Like, you don't have to get eaten here. Like, what's the deal here?
I can sort of see where he's coming from in the extent that, like, Beta is the one that's doing that. If he does anything to slap Alpha's head or slaps Beta, like, he knows he's going to die.
Yeah.
So he's sort of like, come on, man, please don't. Okay. Yep, it's happened.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing with that situation. It's like, you're going to die really either way. I still would have like given it one last go when he's getting really close to Alpha's head, just like try running away or something. But
yeah, like the other one.
What can you? As a Whisper, really, like, you've got to just stay completely silent. It seems like if you say or look or do anything, then either Alpha or Beta's just going to kill you just for no reason.
Yeah, you're that guy from before. I heard your voice. Dead.
These poor goons, hey. Yeah. Well, they can't do anything right. Oh, well, but from there, so we go and see Beta. He sort of goes off on his own. Seems to go to, I'm guessing it was his old apartment or something like that. And here it's confirmed that, yeah, he was like a famous country singer, which is definitely an interesting way to take it. I'm still very curious if and how it's going to tie into the story or plot, because throughout this whole episode, we got some stuff happening with it, but it didn't really mean anything or change the story at all. So have you guys got any sort of theories or thoughts on how that could go?
I guess, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but it seemed a little bit more like fan service to me. I'm like, okay. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anything's ever confirmed in the comics, is it?
Nah,
there's like rumors, speculation as to who he is, but I don't think it's ever confirmed. So I suppose it's nice that in the series we do get a little bit of closure going, okay, yeah, so he is a famous country singer. But yeah, whether or not it becomes something, I'm happy either way.
Yeah, sure.
I did think it showed a bit more of a human side to him. Like at first he sees the poster of him, oh, the incredible blah blah blah, and he rips it off the wall. I don't know, and then he somehow listens to the talking bag that has Alpha's head and is like, okay, so from that you must want me to play some music, okay. And so he, he plays one of his old tunes, and the hordes of walkers start coming. And then what I liked from that was him standing on the balcony looking at them all. It was very much like a concert, like the music was playing and there's all the, and so, he takes off the left side of his mask, and I thought, okay, here it is finally. We're going to get to see the gross half of your face, that has been hidden this whole time. But no, he's still the Phantom of the Opera as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's really the big thing, just that in episode 2, there was the big setup of, no, don't take my mask off. And he really didn't want anyone to see what was under there. So there's got to be something in the next couple of episodes. I really hope so, where someone takes the full mask off or something happens and it changes the plot in some kind of way. Because, yeah, it's just so far, it's like, oh, okay, cool, he's a country singer, but it doesn't really change anything too much.
Well, yeah, I would have really liked, and believe me when I say this, if there'd been some newspaper clipping on the wall that he had tagged up, saying, so-and-so, the famous country singer, was slashed in the face by an angry fan or by a drunk whatever, and that was it, and so we go, okay, he was in some kind of an accident or a fight or something, and that's why we don't want to see his face. That'd be fine. But the fact that he's hiding it for some reason that we don't yet know of, like he might be beautiful under there. We don't know. But,
Actually, when you said that, it gave me one other thought of similar, like you could do a newspaper clipping, but famous country singer Half Moon murders his wife and son, or you could have him be like a serial killer or gets locked up for 10 years in jail. You could turn it that way, I suppose, to where in his past life he actually turned out to be a big criminal or something like that, and then that could add something to it maybe. Yeah, guess we'll have to wait and see for that one. I did like, so when he starts playing the music, there's they play the song again, which Magna was listening to in, I think it was episode 4, maybe episode 5. She was listening to it on a record, so I like that they're tying in a few little hints that they've put throughout the last few seasons, and even there was a little Easter egg in Fear the Walking Dead in the spin-off show. There was the album that he had here, there was a CD of that in the background.
Nice.
So I like how they've done that and just set up a few little hints here and there. That's cool, and I always think it's cool when you can put in little things for people to speculate on. Also, just on the actual song that he plays, so that song was written by Emily Kinney, who played Beth in the show. So
Nice.
she's got her own version of it, which is on Spotify and everything. But they obviously did a cover of it here with Ryan Hurst singing it. So I thought it was just a cool little Easter egg there.
I didn't realize that was actually him singing, but that's really cool.
Yeah. So that was actually where a lot of people kind of put 2 and 2 together, a few months ago when they heard that song, is they thought it really sounded like Ryan Hurst. So, I mean, I haven't watched much else with him in it, so I wouldn't recognize his voice that easily, but I know a lot of people said, oh, that's definitely him singing the song. So that's cool how they did that. And like you said as well, Isaac, the imagery of the concert of him standing up there and then all these zombies coming in.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was cool imagery. But pretty much after that, he goes, he kills, he stabs the alpha head, and I was a bit like, oh, okay, why'd you do that? But then when you see him come out and he's got half of her face as part of his mask, I thought that worked really well, and it looks cool at least.
I had no idea
Any
that
thoughts?
human skulls were that soft. I thought it took like a massive swing or stab, but he just goes yoink and good night, and that's about it. So I don't know. Maybe if you're bald, it's
I don't think this show's been so well known for accurate, I don't know, anatomy or stuff like that. I think that tends to happen quite a lot. Yeah, I remember there's a pile of times where people have just stomped on her head and squashed it like a tomato or whatever. Pretty sure it's not that easy, but yeah, oh well. It's consistent within the show at least, seems to be.
Well, like even in the earlier seasons, you'd have a character swing a weapon, catch a walker right in the head, and then have trouble retrieving it from the head because of how like stuck in there it was. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's happened actually with Negan a few times this season where he's stabbed the knife in and then the blade's like snapped off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, you're right. It is a bit inconsistent.
Classic Negan.
But yeah, oh well, it's a zombie show at the end of the day, I suppose. Yeah, so we'll talk a bit now about the Eugene and Yumiko and Ezekiel, that storyline. So right towards the start of the episode, we see Magna show up and rejoin with the group. And something that I'm finding a bit annoying is just like that no one's mentioning Connie. So they did, I don't know, 2 episodes ago, Magna said, "Oh, where is she?" And they talked about it briefly, but she arrives back and no one says, "Oh, where's Connie?" So, hopefully it'll pay off, but it's becoming a bit of a Heath situation where surely someone would say something. And it has been a bit of that, even straight after the episode where she gets trapped in the mine, there's Daryl and you're following all those characters, but no one seems to mention it or be thinking about it or crying or anything. So yeah, that's just a bit annoying. I'm finding how there's that, I don't know, lack of consistency, how everyone's upset and then they just forget about it and move on.
Well, yeah, we haven't heard anything about Connie for ages. She hasn't heard anything about anyone.
Wow. It had to be something.
Oh, I love Connie. Like, I'm as sad as the next
Absolutely.
person that, we haven't heard from her, but, I gotta jump in there.
I never think of those, but that was so obvious. So yeah, nicely done.
Many apologies. No,
Many apologies.
I absolutely hope that it doesn't turn into a Heath situation. Like, they should have learnt, if anything, from that you get a bit of backlash from the fans, especially. But then also from a storytelling point of view, she's obviously one of the main characters. Not even just a support character anymore, but like she's actually one of the main characters. And from what I can tell, like a fan favorite already, I think because of the interest paired with Daryl as well. And so the fact that we haven't heard anything about her, or that, like you say, people aren't sad at the mention of her name, or, oh, we'll keep looking, we'll keep trying. Like Daryl, at least I would have thought would be like on some secret mission to find extra tunnels and like be furiously like quizzing Magna, like how'd you get out? Is there other areas, whatever, all of that. So,
well, I think given everything that's happened like within the past couple of episodes, it's sort of, for me anyways, I can excuse Daryl at least not being on the forefront, given that Hilltop's been burnt down, everything's gone pear-shaped, so to speak. So I guess with that in mind, I would extend a little bit of grace, but I would like to see in the next episode him interacting with Magna and saying, "Where is she? Is there anything you can tell me? Like, which direction was she going?" I'd like to see something a bit more now.
Yeah, totally. And one thing I heard in a YouTube video, again, Maker Path Presents, I talk about him all the time, but he pointed out something interesting actually as far as like a script writing rule where they say, when you're writing a script, never say something that the audience already knows or has already seen. So that actually, I was thinking about that quite a lot this episode because there's a lot in the dialogue, whether it's with Negan talking to Daryl or this stuff with Connie. It seems like there's a lot of things that people would say in real life, but they're not saying it now just because the audience has already seen it. So I don't know if that's the thinking behind it, maybe that, we've already heard the explanation about Connie, so we don't want to keep hearing the same thing again. So, but I think they just take it too far and then they have no one mention it. Yeah, so, and similar with Negan, like, I would have thought he'd say, "Oh, look, Carol let me out of the cell, and then this. I would have thought that would be the first thing he'd go and say, but maybe the reason they didn't do it is because we've already seen it. So
yeah.
it does get a bit frustrating when you're thinking, oh, any normal person in this situation would just explain it normally like that, but then they kind of beat around the bushes and don't quite say the whole story. And yeah, so that does actually explain maybe why they're doing that, but I think they just take it a bit too far sometimes.
Because, like, looking at the episode or so, I think it was before this one, where Negan comes into contact with Aaron, and Aaron's, like, reaching for his sword, like, I can't believe this, all of this. It would have been so easy for Negan to say, look, I'm on my way to kill Alpha right now, such and such, just trust me, I'll be right back, and we can chat about this later. But that'd make for a trash TV show, wouldn't it? So, like...
Yeah. Yeah, so there's definitely that line between realism versus just dramatic writing and stuff like that. So, oh well, what can you do? And yeah, so basically from here we've got Eugene like makes a speech to everyone, just explaining, I found this girl and we're meeting up. He's freaking out a bit, but he manages to get his words out. I liked how Ezekiel stood up for him though in that whole thing.
So I did enjoy Ezekiel backing him and saying, "Let's just hear him out at the very least."
Yeah. So from there we've got they sort of go out on the road. Magna's maybe going to go, but then Yumiko ends up going. I actually really like how they're balancing the side characters at the moment, because I was thinking about how in the past seasons we've had side characters come in, whether it be Maggie or Herschel, someone like that, or even
or Heath.
Later on you've got Heath. But people like Tara, Abraham, Rosita, all that, how they started off as side characters and now they're basically the main cast, or Tara's dead and stuff like that, but how they managed to bring in side characters and really make them that much more likable and really make them feel like part of the main cast. I felt like maybe it wasn't happening as much because there were characters like Alden and even Magna and the new crew who've come in who just didn't feel like they were getting past that kind of B character status. But I think doing things like this, having Eugene, who's kind of on the side, but he's getting more of the spotlight, Yumiko, who's really more of a new character, and even Ezekiel, who's, he was sort of in the background for more of this, but just... I think they're doing really good pairings with those, giving different people the spotlight and actually giving them a chance to grow on us and have their own character arcs and things like that.
So is Magna an A or a B?
Ooh, good question.
Well, I will love to find out what that means one day. But anyway,
maybe that's what it means. Maybe like Jadis was like, "Oh, I told you I had a B character, but it's actually an A character."
She's actually on the walkie-talkie to one of the executive producers, and the people filming it were just like, "Actually, we could use this. Yeah, just put that in there. What could go wrong?"
Greg Nicotero's flying the helicopter saying, "We need or Scott Gimple, he's like, "We need to make a movie. Give us a character we can use." "Oh, I've got a B, Gabriel. Actually, look, I've got an A."
I lied. It's an A.
Okay, so yeah, they head out on the road. I made a note. I like Eugene's adventure hat. He's got the little hat with the feather in it and everything. Go, Eugene.
Really quick before that, the parting words between Jerry and Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Do we think they're never going to see each other again? It feels like that, just from the fact that Jerry actually calls him Ezekiel for the first time, and then they bro it out, and you're just like, oh man, what's happening? Like, super, super tender moment, but it's like, this is it for you two. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hashtag closure.
Definitely felt like that. Hey, yeah. The fact that they've been doing a few of those over the last few episodes and then not killing the characters is giving me a bit of hope. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if that was a final moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a final moment personally. I don't know why. Maybe it's just a gut feeling. Or I think one of them. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way. But I get the feeling that one of them, like that was a goodbye for one of them.
Okay. Yeah. So back to the zombie cages. Yeah, I don't know. My thought after the episode was that could be to do with the zombies who we see placed around the city, set up in the different positions. Maybe that's how she catches them and gets them in there. But but I feel like that would be a bit impractical to have it so far out of the city for that. So I think it's probably something else. But yeah, did you guys have any thoughts what that could be?
No idea.
Lots of
None.
mystery. Okay, fair. Yeah.
For me, it was kind of like this crazy lady who we'll meet in a second. I'm just gonna call her the crazy lady because, boy, oh boy, she's got the look. It was so we see all these crazy zombies put in sort of mannequin positions, like having tea parties and shopping and getting a parking ticket and all of that. And then I wondered whether that was all her idea of trying to make the town look normal again, and maybe the cages at the front were supposed to be some kind of a deterrent, perhaps.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm definitely curious to see next episode, like, her explanation why she's doing all this stuff, because it was definitely funny to see, like, there was the zombie tea party going on inside. You had, like, they were, like, holding cups and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So, yeah, I don't know. I've no idea why I should
Ezekiel
be
just
doing that,
loses
but
it.
it's funny at least. At least Ezekiel gets a good laugh out of
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I guess. Well, actually, before we get onto her, the city set I thought looked awesome. That really felt much higher budget than we've been seeing recently. So I think it's more of that, please. Anything where, especially just seeing all the overgrown plants and all that, you could really you could tell they'd put a lot of effort into the set designing and everything. So that was a big plus. Love seeing all that.
That was one thing in particular that I think they were criticized on. AMC through The Walking Dead were criticized on for the first couple of seasons. Where it's like humanity has been on the fritz for the last couple of years, yet the grass outside of every house is very neatly mowed. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah,
Yeah, that's fair actually. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like after 10 years, there probably would be more overgrowth in the city than this. I'm thinking of like I Am Legend, where there's,
Yeah.
full, I don't know, it's like almost as tall as a person, the weeds that are growing and stuff like that. So that would probably be more realistic. But it still did look cool. And actually, I heard, I think it was on Reddit, maybe I saw someone talking about it, how in the part of Georgia where they're filming, there's some fairly venomous snakes who are known to be in long grass. So that's probably why they do cut all the grass where they're filming. I don't know. That would be one explanation, just for safety for the actors and all that. But you're right. It still seems a bit strange.
it also sort of raises questions like every time they run into new people or a new town, a new setup of any kind. Like, we know that this has been going on for at least 7 years, at least, because of the time jump. So it's like, in all of
Yeah.
that time, how have you not discovered these things? Because they're constantly having to push further to find supplies and whatnot. So I don't know. I get that America is a big place, but America. But it's kind of like, why have you not encountered these things? It's on the road, even. Like, you take a road to get there. So
Yeah, that's fair. I think they've gotten to a certain point where they don't go out too far if they don't have to. Like, I remember at the start of season 9, they went to the museum, and that was like a big deal, making the trip to Washington. So, like, into the city. So, yeah, it seems like they're not really going out as much if they don't have to, and they're more self-sustained with the crops. So that kind of justifies maybe why they haven't been out as much to find these things. But yeah, you're right. There's, particularly if there's really big communities out there, you'd think they would have come across it maybe earlier. But I don't know. Still, I think it's about 10 years in the timeline that since the outbreak. So yeah, I think there's a certain point where you just want to stay with your community and not go out too far in case you encounter like another saviors type group or something like that. That would be my thinking of why you don't want to go out and come across more people. So yeah, that's a thought. Then we come across this crazy lady who is her name's Princess. That's not really a spoiler. It's in the little teaser for next episode, and she's a character from the comics as well. So as far as the portrayal goes, like the actress and everything that they got for this is like, it looks like you've taken a page out of the comics and put it in 3D. She looks like exactly like the comics. So I thought that was pretty cool to see at least, and definitely just stands out. I mean, I don't know the last time we've seen the color pink in The Walking Dead. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say so far because we've only seen like 2 seconds of the character, but I am very curious to see where it goes. And I don't mind having more of a lighthearted, I don't know, even if she's a bit crazy, just an optimistic kind of fun character in there.
Well, for me, she's like the embodiment of. We have like a what if type section sometimes on this show, but it's kind of
Sure.
like if Izzy had never died and been shot in the head by Carol, she would have grown up into this lady. Like, hey.
Oh yeah,
look
and
at
having
these-
all the walkers
yeah.
like set up as people and
Yeah,
stuff.
they're not really dead. They're just different. You have to understand them. Like, Yeah.
Maybe that's why the episode's called "Look at the Flowers."
Oh!
It's actually Lizzie.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Just look at the
Yeah,
flowers.
big plot twist there. Yeah, well, I don't think we actually saw Lizzie's dead body, so maybe they could have done some trickery off camera.
Whoa.
I don't know. But
Hot
yeah,
take.
nah, not really. Any thoughts on Princess Liam?
I actually didn't realize she was a comic book character, so I'm gonna have to look up the comic book version now. I'm with Isaac. I'm like, yeah, this is interesting. This is a pleasant change. A little bit of a spring in her step, a little bit of craziness.
She had a machine
I'm
gun.
always okay with that one.
She
Sorry.
had a machine gun pointed at them and saying, "Hey, guys." You're like, no. Look at.
Yeah, probably a little bit more than a little bit of
Yeah.
crazy. I think there's some full crazy there. But I like it. I'm interested to see where they go with that.
And for now, are we assuming that she's the lady that's been in radio contact with Eugene?
I don't think so. Yeah, because she definitely seemed different over the radio, if that was her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, something's going to come out of that, and yeah, that's the majority of the episode. Overall, a bit of filler, but definitely some interesting setup. And well, next week's the last episode that we're going to get for a while, unfortunately, because because of this whole COVID-19 thing has slowed down the post-production, so they haven't been able to finish that off. But I guess on the plus side, I'm glad that they're taking their time rather than, just smashing it out or releasing an unfinished, unpolished version of it. So I'd rather they take a little bit of time, and once this is all over, they can properly finish it off and then give it to us in, as best as it can be. So it's a shame we have to wait, but that's all right. We'll survive.
Yeah, it is what it is.
That's it. So next week's going to be the finale for now, I suppose. But yeah, looking forward to that still. Let's go into now another segment that we do, which Liam's going to introduce for us. It's called...
Previously on AMC's The Walking Dead.
Thank you. And this gives us a chance to talk about some of the previous seasons. We started the show halfway through season 10, so there's lots of stuff we haven't talked about, and we get to talk about it here. So, Isaac, how about you start us off for this one?
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Unless you want to handball it to someone else.
No, I trust you
It's
guys.
probably my turn, isn't it?
I trust you guys. We're all copycats on this show, except for some of us. So I am bringing you right back to season 1, when they're all on the freeway and there's that horde coming toward them. Not that particular scene, but you remember, or is that season 2?
That's the start of season 2, yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's like right at the start.
One of the things, I remember this scene because I was very on edge about it. I was new to the show, and I still was pretty on edge about jump scares and, walkers suddenly coming to life and grabbing people, and all of that was still pretty freaky to me. So the scene in question I'm talking about is Carl. He opens up like a Jeep door or something like that, and there's a guy holding onto a bag full of weapons, those swords and knives and whatnot. and the whole time you're watching this walker going, you're gonna come alive any moment now, and like he goes to take it off, he finally gets the bag, and then the dead body just falls over, like, but you think that it's alive, and that whole scene just had me on edge throughout the entire bit, and I was just, oh man. And I thought that was really done well, because it messed around with your expectations as far as every other zombie up until now. You walk past it and then it suddenly comes to life and grabs you. But to have that not happen, it just kind of reinstalls that fear of it could happen at any time or not at all. So I liked it. And the weapons were cool.
Absolutely. I definitely remember getting the same feeling watching that scene of just, especially he sort of tries to reach in from a distance at first, but then he can't quite get it. So he has to like get right up and really get in there to grab it. So that was very tense. And I think it's all the more scary, especially just like when it's early on, that was still the second season, but you're still kind of learning the rules of the universe. Right. And by now we know exactly how zombies work, and we've sort of seen plenty of situations for how they would act in most situations. Obviously they change it up sometimes, but we've got a general idea. If that were to happen now, we'd know, if it's not moving, if it's not making noise, then it's dead. But at that point, we're still learning about the world, so that added a lot of tension, I think. Yeah. I liked it. That was a good one.
That was a good one. And I actually can't remember it, so I'm probably going to need to find that episode and rewatch it now.
Yeah. Always worth a rewatch, season 2. I think I did, the last time I watched season 2, I watched like almost the whole thing in one day because I was sick, and it's like 13 episodes, but I just started in the morning. And I think I only left the last episode till the next day, but I got through 12 episodes otherwise in one day.
Nice.
Yeah. Liam, what have you got?
Also from season 2, actually, I wanted to take us back to one of the pivotal points, and that was Shane's death and reanimation. That whole sequence, that was incredible. And it was one of the most gripping scenes from season 2, in my opinion. Just that whole interaction between Shane and Rick. After the whole build-up of, they're going to come to blows eventually. Then they did come to blows, and they sort of made amends. But yeah, it all finished with that knife in the gut there. But man, that was an awesome scene. And then having Carl pull the gun out, and Rick thinks he's aiming it at him, but it's that one. But it's Shane in the background. He's pointing the gun at Shane because Shane's just reanimated. But also, given that, I don't think at that point we knew that everyone was infected, did we? Rick knew, but I don't think they'd.
Yeah, that's right. So it was kind of a shock when Shane stood up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think especially at that point in the show, like we'd seen Dale die and Amy and a few other side characters, but we hadn't really had a main character die. So I think that expectation of, it really seemed like it was Shane, or Rick, Shane, and Lauren, Carl. They really seemed like the sort of core characters who were probably going to be safe, even though Shane was a bit crazy. From most other TV shows we'd seen at the time, even if there's conflict, you still keep those characters around. But to see him die definitely really kind of changed the tone and was a moment of, oh, okay, yeah, they're killing off the really main characters.
Yeah, it was a pretty ruthless moment from Rick as well, because one of the lines I remember him saying is he's pulling his gun out and he's lowering it to the ground, and his line is, you're going to have to shoot an unarmed man. He keeps saying to Shane, pretty much because, them being cop partners, or they were cop partners, they know that you don't shoot somebody who's unarmed. That's just like a basic principle thing. And then that whole knife to the gut thing came out of nowhere. So I can fully understand. Oh, Shane, yeah, what are those flowers over there, on the ground? Stab. Yeah, for sure.
That's a good one. Nice. I'll take you to season 3 for my one. And just wanted to talk about Mel's redemption that he has at the end when he sort of because for the most part he's been a pretty bad guy. He's been on the side of the governor and all that, but towards the end of season 3. He's got Michonne. He's about to sort of turn her in. And look, I haven't watched it in a little while, so I can't remember exactly how it plays out. But I just remember, yeah, it was just a perfectly Merle way to go out. You know, he lets Michonne go, and then he goes and gets in the car, starts blaring music. He gets real drunk, and like he's got all these zombies following him in the car. And even there's like one against the window, and he sort of holds the beer bottle up to make it look like it's drinking beer, and just has a chuckle to himself. So, you know, it's like, it's just such a Merle way to go out and to redeem yourself. He's just like loud and obnoxious, and then just drives straight through where the governor's crew are waiting out and just starts shooting at them. So yeah, it was definitely touching to see, you know, how he comes back. I think Michael Rooker, the actor, played that role in Guardians of the Galaxy as well, to some extent, where he's kind of a bad guy, but then he's got that redeeming quality and ends up, you know, sacrificing himself in a redemption arc. And I think he plays that role perfectly. I think he's done it in a pile of other movies as well, but it suits that actor really well. And yeah, I like to see how that played out. What did you guys think of Merle, and particularly, how he sort of redeemed himself towards the end?
Well, first of all, you mentioned at the start of this episode, before we started recording, that you were going to find a way to talk about our boy Gargiulio.
Gargiulio.
Yes.
But
you've had that sound effect waiting for like this whole time. And yeah, there was never going to be a perfect time to use it. This is fairly close.
Justice for Gargiulio. Yeah. No, I agree with everything that you've said. It was particularly Daryl's reaction as well to seeing Merle turned. There was definitely something that's a whole thing even in itself. But I agree.
Go Merle and
Gargiulio.
And Gargiulio. Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there for now. It's a good show, a good episode this week, and looking forward to next week. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. You can head to our website, which is turnsounds.com. We run a pile of other podcasts, and we've got a contact page there if you want to get in touch with us. Definitely send through any of your thoughts on the episodes, or even just questions and things you'd like us to talk about. We'll definitely bring in any suggestions. And turnsounds@gmail.com if you want to flick us an email, or we're also Turnsounds on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of those. You can message us there, or even just follow us for updates, because we love interacting with you guys and always want to hear what you have to say. So thanks so much for watching, and I've been your host, Ben.
I have been
Isaac
Still.
I am still Lee.
And we're still getting the hang of this video call thing. So thank you for bearing with us. And however long this COVID-19 thing goes on, we'll still keep giving you awesome content through Turn Sounds. Make sure you check out our other podcasts, because we don't talk about all the bad news too much. We like to try and give you guys a fun escape from that, and we'll keep that up as much as we can. So thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Damn!
Adios.